Vasiliy Lomachenko, George Kambosos. I break this fight down. I give you the keys to victory. This is your boy JG. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. This is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. Please come and like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of all the latest and greatest. Let's just get right into it right now. My dog's knocking stuff around. She's definitely tripping. Anyway, George Kambosos, Vasiliy Lomachenko, it goes down in Perth, Australia, May 11/12 because of time changes, time zones. You guys know what the deal is. In this video, I give you the 3 keys to victory, 3 for Vasiliy Lomachenko, 3 for George Kambosos, and then ultimately my prediction. As I do the video, start to work through what you guys are thinking. Let's get into it right now. We're going to start off with Vasiliy Lomachenko. First key to victory for Vasiliy Lomachenko is going to be footwork. More specifically, his ability to create angles utilizing his footwork. Now, this is not some sort of new phenomenon. This is something he does very, very well. I do want to give credit, however, to one, Teofimo Lopez. He was kind of the first one to kind of break the mold and figure out the way to combat, the step around move that Lomachenko typically utilizes, creating angles and giving him offensive opportunities. But it's still something he's been able to deploy at a high level. We'll take a look at the clips here. This is against Nakatani, a guy who he beat up brutally, knocked out and stopped, coming off a Teofimo loss, able to create angles, land punches at awkward angles, and really put the opposition in a position where they can't return fire, defend intelligently, or deliver counters themselves. If you take a look at the Devin Haney fight as well, now he wasn't able to get this until later in the bout, but his persistence put him in a position to see Devin Haney shelled up, kind of taking punches and then being forced to tie up to slow down the momentum of a Lomachenko. And against Jorge Linares, where Linares also fought a really good fight against Lomachenko, dropping him once, eventually being stopped to the body. But you see Lomachenko, once he figures out what he wants to do offensively based on what you're offering defensively, trying to utilize that footwork to create the angles that give him offensive opportunities. Key to victory number 2 for Vasiliy Lomachenko, inside fighting. This is one of the aspects of his game I think kind of gets missed. It doesn't get talked about quite a bit, but it's an area in which he excels. Specifically, his ability to free up an arm or two on the inside, not move away to a dangerous range position, and find uppercuts, hooks, get on the angles like we just mentioned, and land offense that's sneaky kind of on the inside, and something you're not prepared for, or you're not anticipating more appropriately, if you're the opposition. Landing the body, landing upstairs. If you take a look at the Devin Haney fight, once again, let's take a look at the clips. This is work that's being done on the inside. You see the high guard, he walks it down, finds his opportunities, lands combinations, punches and bunches. And like we mentioned before with the Nakatani fight, able to get on the inside, create a myriad of problems, and then land meaningful shots. Lomachenko's inside fighting game is going to spell problems. If I had to rate it, number 1 with a bullet for Kambosos, who's a guy who you would think, based on his fighting style, does well on the inside, but he gets handled there quite often. He likes to tie up, and then he likes to sit his butt down and out and try to create a little more space so he can be at perfect punching range and distance instead of settling in, throwing those shots, finding those opportunities, and landing damage on the opposition. Vasiliy Lomachenko's ability to fight on the inside is not something that's heavily discussed, but it is one of his bread and butter situational moves. He does it very, very well. He's a very well-rounded fighter. Number 3 key to victory for Vasiliy Lomachenko, and for those who are big fans of Lomachenko, I know you will understand this one. It does not require video clips or footage. You cannot take so long to get going. The sound you hear in your ear, the clock ticking, is how long it takes Lomachenko to get going in the fight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds of poking and prodding and pause, by the way, and trying to figure out what they're doing. And then you want to turn it up round 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, where it's possibly too late. Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney are prime examples of guys he probably could have beaten very cleanly, very clearly, because he's a very skilled fighter, but you take so much time off. The Teofimo fight was very head-scratching because in the beginning, Teofimo had not done anything so pressing to keep Lomachenko at bay, but then Lomachenko has to play the catch-up game. Credit to Teofimo fighting his ass off in the 12th in that fight to solidify that decision. Devin Haney fight starts off a little better, but ultimately winds up in the same position where he has to win a bunch of rounds and moments late in the fight, and it's just not enough. The Nakatani fight's a good example of him coming out, being offensively aggressive and assertive right away, and putting himself in a position to not one, win the fight, but two, also possibly get a stoppage. That fight was directly after the Teofimo fight, so he probably had something to prove there, and I believe he was coming off a shoulder surgery. So for Vasiliy Lomachenko, the keys to victory: your footwork, your inside fighting game, and don't waste too much time dicking around. Get in there, be decisive, find your offense, and then make things happen. Moving over to George Kambosos. 3 keys to victory for Kambosos. Number 1 with the bullet. You have to do something that you already do very well, but this is going to be very, very important. Kambosos has a really good shot of committing, or excuse me, a really good job of committing to his shots. So once you throw a jab in there, maybe a lazy right hand, he's going to get off combinations and punches. What I'm looking for specifically from Kambosos is his left hook. Now, admittedly, if you look at the Mick Bay fight, let's look at the clips here. His ability to land the jab and then the left hook, and then you fast forward to the Maxie Hughes fight, it would appear to me that Kambosos has lost a little bit of steam, but the idea is still there. The guy closes the distance. You just throw your combinations and bunches, excuse me, and look to exploit, maybe poor hand exchange or defensive hand placement that gives you an opportunity to find something. This will be challenging against Lomachenko, but the good thing that Kambosos does have on his side is Lomachenko in his recent fights has largely abandoned the jab outside of rounds 1 or 2 and likes to come forward in a high guard. Please see the Devin Haney fight. This will be an opportunity for Kambosos to really get the left hook off and really start getting back to his jab, which he's abandoned himself to. But there will be opportunities against against Lomachenko with settling on those punches, throwing punches and bunches, and committing to the shots that are your favorite, more specifically that left hook. Key number 2 for Kambosos is offensive variety. He's a very predictable fighter, and now that he's slowing down, it makes him even more vulnerable because you know exactly what he wants to do. However, in the Maxie Hughes fight, let's take a look at the clip here. You'll see him deploy a double right hand. This is in the first round of this bout with no lead hand setup. This is his attempt to give Maxie Hughes something different to think about, something different to ponder as the fight continues to unfold. Eventually, he falls back into his regular who he is, being Kambosos. But if that's something that he can do more consistently over the course of the bout against Lomachenko, provide more offensive variety, he might be able to prevent what I would consider to be the inevitable, which is a late round stoppage victory for Lomachenko. You have to be able to do something different than you've always done. You have to create wrinkles. You have to be able to create adjustments. Kambosos, in my opinion, hasn't shown that over the 2 Devin Haney fights. The Maxie Hughes fight, he started to go that direction, but eventually deviated because Maxie Hughes had a really good game plan, beautiful uppercut, really did his thing, was able to kind of create confusion for Kambosos, which took away from maybe some new wrinkles they implemented in camp. And that's a beautiful segue into the third and final key to victory for George Kambosos. And you have to stay away from the ninja hands. Now, you guys might be thinking to yourself, what the hell do you mean by ninja hands? You always know when you have Kambosos found out because he starts switching stances and the hands start going everywhere, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And the reason why this is a detriment and is to be avoided for 2 reasons. If you're doing all of this, there's one thing I know you can't do. You can't hit me. And if you take a look at the Devin Haney clips here, you have a Kambosos standing in front of Devin Haney doing a lot of nothing that's productive and then getting hit cleanly with jabs and 1-2s. The second issue that this creates is when you finally settle back into the traditional boxing stance or form, now you're predictable. Well, you're not flopping around anymore, so I know it's a high probability that punches are coming my way. You have to avoid these ninja hands, and you have to create complexities in a different way than the switch dancing and the flopping all about. At the highest levels of the sport, you are making yourself too easy of a target. Devin Haney did 2 bouts and 24 rounds of taking advantage of this. Seeing you stand in front of him and flop around, even Maxie Hughes, who's a far lesser fighter than a Devin Haney, was able to kind of identify that you are in no man's land, struggling to close the distance, close that threshold, and get offense off, and then you had to pay for that. So the keys to victory for George Kambosos: offensive variety, sticking to what you're really, really great at, which is sitting on those punches, throwing punches and punches, and specific with that left hand, and avoid the ninja hands and switch stance and all the extra stuff. You need to be a very basic fighter with a good jab, decent chin, and the ability to read what's coming at you to beat a Lomachenko. I don't think you possess those skills. but I hope for a compelling fight. My final prediction is this. Ultimately, Lomachenko is too much right now, despite being 6 years older than Kambosos. I do have him getting this done by either shutout or a late round stoppage. I do give Kambosos credit. He comes out, he always wants to fight and compete, and he's a tough guy. Lomachenko right now, I think, has an opportunity to make one last run at unified, possibly undisputed champion. And we just got to see how it plays out. Let me know what you guys are thinking. This is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. We out.